Edition of Scholesy Talks. We talk about pop culture on this particular day, and through the 6 weeks holiday, me and my main man here, what's your name?
John.
No, louder.
John.
John, we are watching 90s movies. Yes, 90s movies. Last week we watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first one.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
What he said, and we loved it. We enjoyed it. I remember it from my childhood. Major nostalgia push. Stay in the camera, man. Stay in the camera. Okay. And this week we are watching. I'm not even gonna lie. This man will tell you now. I have literally just cried for an hour and 23 minutes. Okay. Like, what was I like? How much was I crying?
A lot.
A lot.
Because there's a lot of happy parts and a lot of sad parts.
Yes, there was. There was a lot of happy parts. There was a lot of sad parts. And in the background, you'll see we watched Homeward Bound, the incredible journey, the story of Shadow, Chance,
and Sassy.
and Sassy.
The sassiest.
The sassy-ist. That's what she was, sassy. She was sassy. And this was
bossy.
And she was very bossy. This was a 1993 film, and you'll recognise a lot of the voices in it. Sally Field, absolutely legendary actor, and my man, my favourite actor of all time, Michael J. Fox, Marty McFly, was the voice of Chance. And it was a fun film to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you want to hear John? Let's hear what John has to say about this, because he has good things always to say about this sort of stuff. So go, John.
So they got chased by a mountain lion, and Sassy got fell down a waterfall, and she got found on the side of the river by
A nice old man.
yeah, and then they got before that happened, they got took to a place and Shadow missed his owner.
So let's start from the beginning. So you've said your favourite bits. So John's favourite bits are the lion, yeah, and we'll get to that in a second. The lion. Your favourite bits is when Sassy fell down a waterfall.
It is the funniest part.
It wasn't funny. I don't know why man's talking.
Funny for you.
It wasn't. I was like crying. I'm like, Sassy, don't fall down that waterfall, baby. And she did. So basically, the logic of the movie is there's a new couple that have come together. They have got married and they're joining a family. All right, and there is.
And he got picked.
One second. Let's just give the context before we jump in, right? And so basically, there's a dog called Chance. Okay.
That got picked up in jail.
Oh yeah, and basically,
Adopted.
and he got adopted, didn't he? Well done.
Yes.
And he got adopted into a new family, and he was a bit sort of like, no one loves me, everybody hates me, all of that sort of stuff.
But he just keep on running for the turkey.
Yeah, and he was a bit of a cheeky. He was a bit of a naughty dog. He was sort of like adopted into the family. Shadow's like the hierarchy, the old guy that's been there since day one, loves everybody, loyal. Okay, and then you got Sassy, and Sassy's the little girl's cat, a little bit cheeky, a little bit funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So what happened? All right, what happened? So they got took to a farm because the dad had a job in San Francisco. And what happened at the farm?
They ran away into the mountains, and then...
Why did they run away into the mountains? Because they
wanted to see their owners again.
Because they wanted to see their owners again. Because they thought they got left. So the animals couldn't go to San Francisco, so they went on a friend's farm, okay, or a relative's farm. And the animals didn't quite understand they weren't being left, and Chance was getting stressed, wasn't he? Because he thought he was getting put back in the pound. He thought he was getting put back in the pound.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, jail. He called it jail, didn't he? He called it jail. He thought he was getting put back in the pound. He thought he was getting left. So, but Shadow was like, I've got to find Peter. I've got to find my owner. All right, and then they ran into the mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when the tiger came out.
A little bit later, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
Shadow thought it was a lot closer, didn't he?
Hmm.
How close did he think it was?
It was like just over the mountains, and then
So he thought it was just over one mountain, and it wasn't one mountain. How many?
it was 5,000.
5,000 billion quadrillion mountains. Okay, and it was shocking. And do you know what? And do you know what? Chase, Chance, and Sassy. They were like, oh no, this is so far. But Shadow was determined to find his owner, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And so let's get to it.
What's his name?
Who?
The
The boy, yeah.
Yeah.
Peter.
Peter.
So, okay, all right, listen, all right. So what, at that point, they've gone through the mountains, they've caught fish, haven't they?
And then
1 second, all right. And
Then
they
they
have to
found-
cross a river. And this is your favourite bit, remember? So they had to cross a river, okay? So the dogs were fine. They crossed that river. Absolutely fine. But the kitty cat,
she fell in the water.
she fell in the water. And what happened?
She went down the waterfall.
She went down the waterfall. Boom. So it was quite interesting at this bit because it got into sort of like some crazy sort of wisdom, didn't it? Crazy wisdom. So the dogs thought they lost Sassy, and it was an emotional moment. And Shadow sits there and basically says, "Us dogs, we've been here since the beginning of time. It started with a couple of wild dogs that wanted to look after man. We're man's best friend. He's showing what wisdom to the young pup, being Chance." And then they have to get on with their journey. And John's second bit happens just after. What happens at this point?
They get attacked by the lion.
They get attacked by a mountain.
He gets cannonballed into the water.
So the dogs work out. Okay, all right. So
when
1 second.
Chance,
Well, Chance is saying all the sins that he's done, isn't it?
yeah, Chance cannonballed Sassy into the
Not
sand.
not Sassy. Shadow
Shadow,
into
the
canyon.
canyon, and near the beginning where
So what?
if you watch this movie, you might mean that Chance cannonballed Sassy in to the sandbox, and then they did the same with the lion.
Yeah. So it was quite clever. So
But in the water this time.
it went into the water, but Chance was going to Shadow. He was going to Shadow, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, I've buried the TV remote. I buried the TV remote. Okay, under the seesaw. And then what happened at that point? Shadow was like, "You're a genius. There's a seesaw." Okay, and he saw in the rocks there was basically a seesaw-y sort of thing. He sent Chance up.
Water.
He sent Chance right up to the mountaintop. And there's a great little bit where Chance gets confused by butterflies because he's a young pup. This one here, he's the
Big one.
he's the one that looks like Titus, Mary. If you're still watching Mary, he's the one that used to look like like
Mary
Titus.
watching?
Yeah, Mary's watching. Look, say hi to Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Okay, all right, and so he cannonballs him in the air. So what happens?
Into the water.
Into the water, gets cannonballed, goes into the water. What happens after that? Let's talk about the old man and Sassy quickly.
Okay.
So what did the old man finds?
The old man finds Sassy all wet.
And
then
what does he
she
do?
went-
What does he do? He looks after her, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he cleans her up.
Yeah.
All right, and then basically Sassy hears some. A little while later, hears some
Dogs.
barking. Okay.
And it was Chance
And
and
Shadow. It hears them barking. All right, and at that point, what happens? All right, what happens at that point?
At that point.
Sassy goes and looks for them.
Yeah.
Goes and looks for them. So can we remember what happens here? This bit's really, really, really important. So they're all reunited. They're all together. And this is so a little bit earlier in the film. All right, he talks about being man's best friend, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And Shadow hears a little girl crying, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And what happened? What happened to the little girl?
She was lost.
She was lost, and her parents were looking for them. Rangers were looking for them. They're sort of like the people that look after the parks. And
No.
yeah, they are rangers.
Do you know the pound people?
No, they weren't the pound people. These were park rangers that found them.
Mm.
The pound people are in a minute, okay. And basically, the park rangers, okay, all right, find them, and they're all together. But what's more important is Peter has a fight with his stepdad, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And his stepdad says, well, we have to be honest. And Peter kicks off about this because he's thinking...
And he goes to his room.
One second.
And he climbed out his window.
No, he didn't climb out his window. He went to his room, didn't he? And he was a bit upset. And the stepdad went to his office. And what did he do in his office?
He shouted.
No, he didn't shout. What did he do in his office? He printed off what?
Posters of them three.
Posters of them three people. And he printed them posters, okay?
Around the world.
Not around the world, round the city, round San Francisco, round the mountains, didn't he? Yeah. Alright, didn't he?
Even in his house.
Yeah, he left some in the house and Peter found them and Peter was like, oh yeah. But what happened was, when the little girl was found and the park rangers found them, one of the park rangers recognised the animals, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, and good remembering. She recognised the park ranger. The park ranger recognised the animals.
Oh, that's when he had them spiky things.
Yeah, he also in the movie got some spiky things put in his face by what do they call them?
Hedgehog.
Yeah, it was like a hedgehog. It was one of the big hedgehogs. I can never remember what they're called. Okay.
I call them the hedgehog.
Yeah, but yeah, let's call it a big hedgehog. All right, so they go to the pound, don't they?
Yeah, they go to the pound.
And what happens? And what happens at the pound? But no. First of all, the park ranger.
They just find
them and they ring up the parents, don't they?
Yeah.
And then they're
they ring up the person that.
Yeah, the parents.
Yeah.
All right, and the parents are travelling, aren't they?
Yeah.
So if you remember what I said a minute ago, Chase was put in a pound. So he's got anxiety, he's getting stressed, and then Shadow starts realising, oh look, they're in a cage, and he's getting upset. Yeah. So Sassy, Shadow, and...
no, Sassy ran away.
Sassy ran away, yeah, but she broke him out though, didn't she?
Yeah.
She broke him out, and they run off. And do you know what?
No, but the cat got grabbed, but then the dogs just ran into him twice.
Yeah, and they ran off, didn't they? But do you know what happened? As they ran off, Peter and his parents were crossing. They were going into the pound, so they could have seen them.
And Shadow heard something.
His spider senses.
Yeah.
He thought his sixth sense, didn't he?
Yeah. And then he heard the singing, and he said, I think we need to go back.
Yeah, he heard some noises and he thought he had to go back, but he didn't go back. And the reason why he didn't go back was because he wanted to go home. He went back into the wilderness. Yeah. And they travelled through the wilderness a little bit longer. Let's get to the train tracks. Okay, one second. Let's get.
He crossed the train track.
Well, no. 1 second. You go too quick. All right. So they go to the train. They're travelling home and they get to the city point and they see the city and it's like how beautiful and amazing this city is. Okay, and then they get to a train track and Sassy nearly gets hit by a train. Very, very close. Very, very close. You take it on now. What happens to Shadow?
Shadow falls into a mud pit.
He falls into a mud pit, bang. So the brave old, okay.
But he can't move his leg.
The brave old dog can't move his leg, can he? And he can't quite get back up. And Chase goes in there and he goes, come on, you've driven us all this far. You can keep going. And then it does that classic movie thing where it cuts scene. We don't know what's going to happen at this point. It cuts scene, right?
And then it goes to the house.
And then it goes to the house. Good remembering. And they're all playing basketball. They're all enjoying themselves. And they hear... Who do they hear barking? Chance is barking, and it's one of them scenes. I had a dog very, very similar to Chance, called Titus. Okay, and it was very similar to when they're running over a mountainside, and you see his ears flopping everywhere, and it's like one of them moments. It's like, and then Sassy runs over. Okay, and there's this big pause because if you remember, okay, Shadow fell in a what?
A mud pit.
And he hurt what?
One of his legs.
He hurt one of his legs. Okay, all right. So he was a little while behind, and there's this moment you think in your head: Does Shadow survive? Is he dead? Is he dead? And Peter even thought, oh, he's old. He's probably dead. He's probably gone with the wind.
No,
he's off.
Alive.
But he's alive. He's alive. And happy families at the end, all right? And I am not going to lie, all right? John was laughing at me. How much did I cry?
A lot.
How much did I cry? Tell me how many times?
Like 5,000.
5,000. It was a bit more than that. It was more 10,000.
Yeah, I did.
It was more 10,000. But it was very sad, wasn't it?
I recognised and think that Chance doesn't go straight for the turkey.
Yeah, so Chance likes food. He's like my dog. But so, let's get to this. We've talked about the movie. We think the movie was brilliant. 1993 this movie came out, okay? Alright. Had one of my favourite actors in Michael J. Fox. Marty McFly from Back to the Future. One of John's favourite movies. Did you not know that? Did I not tell you that?
No.
One of John's favourite movies, Back to the Future. Okay, alright. Out of 10, sensibly, what do we give this movie?
10 out of 10.
You give it 10 out of 10. I think nostalgically, for me, it's a 10 out of 10. Okay. Plus, I am obsessed with dogs and cats, so it's definitely a 10 out of 10. All right.
10 out of 10.
And yeah, 10 out of 10.
You said 10.
10 out of 10.
You said 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Yeah, it's 10 out.
Out.
Yeah. That's Mary. All right. So it was 10 out of 10. All right. So guys, all right. This is on Disney Plus. This is one of the movies. If you're not watching it, you're daft. All right, because it's a great nostalgic movie.
It's really good. Oh, the funny parts are the best.
There is emotional parts. There's funny parts. There's action parts. And you know what? At the end of the day, you can't beat talking dogs, can you, John?
No, you
Talking
can't.
dogs and cats.
Talking dogs and cats.
So listen, all right. This is Scholesy. He is John Billabong Hing Hang Hoo. This is Scholesy Talks Pop Culture. We'll be back next week with another movie review. Thank you and love you all.